Alright, so welcome back here everybody, and we're ready to go ahead and start making our fish number one. So what we want to go ahead and do here, I'm just going to go ahead and jump to my project folder here, fish sculpting, fish number one. Okay, just make sure that I close all this tool information down here. Okay, we already have the image for our fish number one in here. But if you don't, all you really need to do is just double click on this and it should pull the image into your texture loadout. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and select our image, throw that into Spotlight. I'll go ahead and close my menu down, go ahead and minimize this. Okay, go ahead and scale our image down. And you can see that I'm working with opacity on here. Okay, so we just want to go ahead and manipulate this shape into our fish, and this really shouldn't take you too much time to go ahead and do. So we need to just basically manipulate with the Move Topological Brush, and it just makes it much easier to do it with the Move Topological Brush rather than using the Move brush. Okay, so let's just manipulate our shape here a little bit. Okay, we're going to re-Dynamesh and just continue to work here. Okay, just have to smooth that out a little bit there. Okay, so let's go ahead with our Basemesh here, fitting our image. We can come in and start pulling out some of our fins, and the method I've found that makes this very easy to go ahead and do, you can either use the curve insert brush, or what I like to do, just simply mask out an area, holding down control and pinning on the mesh, invert that mask, and just basically pull it out. Just make sure you pull it out evenly. Okay, and just start using the underlying image here to line up against. Just making sure that you have pulled it out far enough so that that image, and when we retopologize here, it's not going to basically get connected on the back side here. So we'll clear out that mask. I'll go ahead and re-Dynamesh at this point. Okay, go ahead and clean this up a little bit here. And you'll see that I'm constantly re-Dynameshing, and that's just to make sure that that geometry stays where it's supposed to be. Okay, so just need to basically go ahead and clean that up a little bit here. And you can always turn your smooth intensity up to 100 if you want to, and that just basically will make sure that you don't have any geometric problems later on down the road. So, okay, so we'll go ahead and pull our image back on here, and I'm just looking for the, right now, just the generic shape for that fin. You don't have to have anything that's, you know, really 100% matching, because once we ZRemesh it, that'll give us the opportunity to really refine that shape much more. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull the rest of our fins out here. And that's actually too thick, so okay, go ahead and just invert that mask. I'll rotate the character, making sure that we're still using our Move Topological Brush here. Go ahead and just pull this out, and you can see that I actually have too much of a mask there. That's okay, I can just simply manipulate that shape. Okay. And you can see that just with that sort of little bit of manipulation, you can match that shape much more. I do understand that these are a little bit thick, but that's okay. We can go ahead and fix that once we ZRemesh. Okay, so let's go ahead and paint out our mask here for the first top fin. Just trying to make sure that we don't mask out too much like we did on the bottom there. Okay, we'll go ahead and invert that mask, and we'll go ahead and pull this shape out as well. Okay, go ahead and re-Dynamesh that. Go ahead and smooth the sides of that up a little bit. I think I want to go ahead and ZRemesh this real quick, since I'm getting a little bit of slowdown here. And we'll go about 100. Just to make sure that I maximize the ZRemesher ability here, so it's going to do the entire mesh. This is going to take a little bit while to go ahead and kick through, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video real quick. Okay, so with that first round of ZRemesher done, let's go ahead and take a look at our wireframe here. And you can see that this is fairly high. So what I want to go ahead and do is just make sure that I cut this in half. I'm going to go ahead and ZRemesh again here. And this one isn't actually taking too long, so you can just watch this one in full. So let's go ahead and take a look at this level of geometry. Okay, so we can go ahead and cut this in half one more time, since this is, I don't want to say too high. This is just getting better, so we'll go ahead and take it one more. Okay, so this is basically a perfect level for our geometric shape. Okay, so I can go ahead and here and just turn Dynamesh back on real quick. And it just takes a second to go ahead and update. Okay, so go ahead and turn our wireframe off there, and here we're actually getting a better method of the Dynamesh working here. Okay, so we'll go ahead here and start putting in our back fin. Just make sure that I pull my image back up here, just to make sure that I line up properly of where I need to go ahead and paint and mask out there. Okay, so we'll go ahead and grab our Move Topological, just pull this up, and we can go ahead and edit this here in a minute once we ZRemesh it to, you know, really begin the sculpting process. Okay, so we can go ahead and clear that mask out. If you wanted to, go ahead and re-Dynamesh that. And you can see that this is going to take a minute to go ahead and update. Okay, so there it's updated. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull out the fins here for the bottom. We'll go ahead and just mask out here. We'll go ahead and invert that mask. Using our Move Topological, we'll go ahead and pull this out as well. Okay, and go ahead and pull the front down here to try and match this as best as we can. Okay, I think we should go ahead and make sure that these are actually going to be pulled out to the sides here just a little bit better. Maybe pull them up a little bit so that looks a little bit more like a fish. Probably just have to pull it down. Okay, so I think that looks fairly decent. Okay, so let's just go ahead and clear our mask off. I'm going to go ahead and hit Shift Z to turn off my image. Going to just smooth these Dynameshed fins off a little bit. Okay, go ahead and turn our Dynamesh off. I'm going to go ahead and ZRemesh here, making sure that I get it at 100 for our target polygon count, because like I said, I want to make sure that it encapsulates the whole model. Okay, so we'll go ahead and ZRemesh, and this is definitely going to take a little bit of time to go ahead and do here, so I'm just going to go ahead and pause the video real quick. Okay, so with our first round of ZRemesh done, let's go ahead and take a look at our polyframe, and you can see that this is fairly heavy. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this in half and ZRemesh again. This one shouldn't take too long, so I'm not going to have to pause the video here. This is definitely going to take a couple seconds to kick through because I'm cutting estimation here probably 1.5 million polygons in half, so that'll take it down to 500,000 as you can see, or whatever the count was. It would cut that count in half, and this is looking good, but at this level I definitely don't want to start sculpting on because this is too high, at least for me personally, in terms of a base mesh. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this in half one more time, see what happens. And you can see right away where this ZRemesh actually looks really, really good. Okay, so you can probably go ahead and sculpt on this level of subdivision or this level of ZRemesh, but I'm not going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and cut it one more time in half. And for me personally, this is perfect. This is a ZRemesh base that I am extremely happy with. This is low enough, and if we go ahead up here and take a look at our polygon count's only 1,400 polygons, 1,350 points, and so this is really good. So we can go ahead and really begin sculpting on this, just making sure that we have that symmetry on. Go ahead and pull our image back here. We can really begin to manipulate the shape, and you can see how much easier it is with that low polygon count to really come in and really get our shape to be manipulated much easier. Just making sure that I turn my smooth level down there, because if we start smoothing at 100, it's really going to manipulate our mesh to a really heavy degree. And if you want to go ahead and see that, I'll go ahead and turn that back up, and you can see where our poly frame really gets wonky. Okay, so just go ahead back a step here. I'll jump up 2 subdivision levels just to give myself a great starting base here, and it's still, you know, fairly easy to go ahead and manipulate here. Okay, so we'll maybe just turn our size down here a little bit, and just start manipulating our shape much easier here. Go ahead and turn our image off for a second here, just to make sure that I'm going to be sculpting here on a decent level of subdivision and a decent level of geometry. I just want to go ahead and manipulate our shape a little better. Just making sure that I sort of thin these out. I don't want them to be so thick, our fins here. And I could probably turn my intensity up there a little bit. I think I'm also going to go ahead here and switch materials, just so I can see this better. Okay. Like I said, we definitely need to go ahead and thin these out. And also here on the top, we'll need to thin these ones out. And you can always do that with the pinch brush, but I tend to like to do a lot of stuff manually, just for my own appease. So we'll go ahead and thin that out probably a little more there. That's still a little bit too thick for me, so we'll go ahead and thin that out just a little bit more. Okay. We're also going to need a lot of detailed information here, and you can see within about 15 minutes or so we can really get a decent mesh out here. So we just need to thin the tail out here just a little bit. Okay. So I think I'm fairly happy here. Go ahead and turn our image back on. Okay, and everything is, pretty much lining up for the most part here. Go ahead and smooth that out a little bit there. Okay, we just need to think to ourselves, well, now we need to definitely line the side fin up here as well. So we'll go ahead and just maybe make that a little bit larger. Okay, so that looks good. we have to just think to ourselves, well, we also want gills in here, okay, but where we want those gills at. So I'm just going to take my control, hold it down, and mask out an area. And you can see that this isn't necessarily sharp or defined, so I'm just going to go ahead and clear that mask, and I'm going to jump up one more level of subdivision. So we're on subdivision level 4 here. So I get a decent mask, okay. Go ahead and paint that mask out. I'm going to invert that mask, turn my image off by hitting Shift Z, take my clay brush, and I'm going to do a couple strokes here of my clay brush just to build up a decent level there. And I'll go ahead and turn that mask off, and I'm only going to smooth the front side of that gill, okay. Turn my brush size down here and mask out on the back side of that gill. I'm going to invert that mask, go back into my Move Topological Brush here, and I'm going to pull in that unmasked area so I can go ahead and create the gill. And I'm just pulling that geometric structure in and trying to tuck it away here. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and invert that mask, grab our inflate brush, and we'll just inflate that a little bit, smooth that out, go ahead and clear the mask. Just make sure that our brush size is down a little bit here. And you can see that we have a decent initial mesh here. Okay, probably fatten that side up a little bit, just to make sure that we get the illusion of gills being there. And we're just going to keep refining this. Okay, so we'll go ahead and remask out, re-invert that mask, grab our Move Topological Brush, again push in, and again invert that mask and try and get this to basically lay on top of our mesh. And you can see that we're pinching through here a little bit, and that's fine. Once I go ahead and inflate that, it's going to fatten up pretty well, and it should take care of the problem here, as you can see. Okay, so go ahead and invert that. And at this level, I'll go ahead and jump up one more level of subdivision. So we're at subdivision level 5 already, which doesn't really matter here, because what I'm going to go ahead and do is jump over here to my tool menu. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this mesh. Go ahead and turn off that one that we were just sculpting on. Make sure we have our duplicated mesh. I'm going to go ahead and ZRemesher this. And hopefully this doesn't take too long to go ahead and kick through here. So you can see that it's kicking through. It's about 3/4 of the way done here. Okay, so there it's kicked through. Let's go ahead and take a look at our geometry. Like I said, obviously this level of geometric detail is still a little bit too high to really, be sculpting on. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this in half again. And using that ZRemesher and projection methods, it really does help you get models done in a way and really detailed out quickly. Okay, so this is probably just a little bit too high, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that in half one more time. Okay, so I am going to be happy with this. I'll jump up 2 subdivision levels on this, so we're at subdivision level 3. Come up here to our subtool menu. I'll go ahead and turn on our original, and I'm going to go ahead and project at 0.1. This way we really do capture all that detail. Okay, so I'll go ahead and turn that one mesh off, and you can see that now we have a really solid mesh, and it's fairly smooth. This way we're going to be able to really get some good details in here. So we'll go ahead and just continue to work, and I'm going to go ahead here and make sure that we turn on white so that our mesh is really clear and everybody can see this properly. So we'll just continue to work on the gills here, and I'm just trying not to paint on this side of the gills. All I want here is the back, really, so I can just pull that in a little bit better. Okay, so go ahead and invert that mask. Just grab our Move Topological Brush, just up the size there a little bit, and just go ahead and push that in. Push that in. Go ahead and just continue to manipulate that a little bit better. Okay, go ahead and invert the mask. Try and pull these sides in a little bit better. Grab our inflate tool. Just inflate that up a little bit. Clear that mask out. Go ahead and smooth. So now we're really getting a really excellent illusion of a gill there. Okay. Go ahead and smooth that out a little bit more. Okay. And now, before I start really doing anything else, just in case we don't have to ZRemesh anymore, I want to make sure that I get a UV map on this, so later on down the road we're going to be able to add scales and add them fairly uniformly. So if we take a look here at our low level of subdivision, we're going to be able to UV map this real easily. So I'm just going to go ahead and export this out real quick. I'm just going to export this out to the desktop, and I'm going to open a UV mapping program called Roadkill, which is an absolutely wonderful tool, and you can get this at pullinshapes.co.uk. Go ahead and pull in our mesh here, and you can see that this comes in as upside down and backwards, and I'm going to have to fix that with GoZ. So I'll just go ahead and UV map this real quick, and you can see that here on the right hand side it comes out and it's fairly clean, basically just cutting in half. Okay, I'll go ahead and save this, and I'm going to go ahead and delete this top one because this is the mesh that we just exported out. You don't necessarily have to do that. Go ahead and sphere, go ahead and import here, and this is the one that has the UV map on it, so we'll just jump back up the subdivision level 3, put that at the top of the stack, and if you want, just for your own self, you can go ahead and reproject just to make sure that you get all those details properly. But you can see that I actually projected wrong there because this was on subdivision level 3. Okay, so now that one that we didn't export is on subdivision level 5. We can now go ahead and reproject that. That way it projects the details smooth and not faceted like that. Okay, so we can go ahead and turn that one off. Take a look here at our wireframe, and our model is fairly clean here, but we also have a UV map on this. But let's say we want to go ahead and clean that UV map up here. Just come up here to Z plugin, UV master, and we'll just unwrap it. I'm not, like you can see there that I'm not masking out any areas for it to specifically UV. I'm UV mapping the entire model. This way it's going to be a clean UV map, very, very clean UV map. So we'll jump back up to subdivision level 3 here, and we'll start working on the eyes. Okay, so we'll bring our image back. Just make sure that we line this up. And I don't want the eyes here to be as big as you see in the image. I'm simply just going to make them probably about that big. Oops, I need to make sure that I go ahead and turn on my symmetry there. Go ahead and get our eyes where we want them, and that's fine. So go ahead and invert that mask. I'm going to go ahead and turn my image off. I'm going to hit my comma tool, come up here to Brush, Miscellaneous Eyes. Go ahead and pull an eye shape in there. Go ahead and clear that mask out. And we'll just go ahead and grab our Move Topological Brush here. And just try and get an eye shape that we're happy with. Probably go ahead and smooth that little edge out a little bit. Okay. Go ahead and grab our Inflate brush, turn that to Z sub. And just start sculpting on the inside portion of the eye there. Okay, and at this point we can go ahead and append some spheres for our eyes. So tool, we'll just append spheres for our eye. And I'm only going to do one side of the eye here. Turn on my transparency so I know where that eye is. But before we actually go ahead and do that, let me make sure that this is all going to be lined up properly. So let me go ahead and just delete this real quick. Jump back to this. Make sure that I save this as well. And I'm just going to put this into my project folder here. So fish one, we'll call this the base fish geo 1. Okay, go ahead and save this. I'm going to go ahead and go Z this over to Maya real quick just to make sure that it's all going to line up properly and our alignment hasn't changed at all. I just want to make 100% sure of that, because if it has changed, this will give us the opportunity to go ahead and reset that and refix it. Okay, so you can see that Maya is loading here. So it definitely has changed, and you can see that it's basically upside down. So we just need to turn this 180 degrees. And I'm not going to freeze the transformations or center the pivots or anything. I'm just going to basically leave this pretty much where it is. If you want to go ahead and move that back, you can go ahead and do that. We'll just go Z this back over to my ZBrush here. So now everything is lined up properly. We'll go ahead and just jump back up to our subdivision level 3 here. We'll go ahead and append a sphere real quick. Turn on our transparency so we can see where that sphere is. Just go ahead and move it over here. And try and get this into the proper place. Okay, so go ahead and just pull this over. Maybe push it back a little bit there. Might have to go ahead and scale this up just a little bit, not too much. Okay. So I think we're at a good place there. We'll go ahead and jump back to the mesh that we're sculpting on. Go back into draw mode. And we're just going to go ahead here and sculpt out our eyes. And you're going to see that I'm using the clay brush. And I'm just going to throw in a bunch of clay here. Okay, just so that it covers up that eye. And just take our smooth there. And also my pinch. Okay, we're going to go ahead and pinch that up a little bit. And this will just require a little bit of work on your side to go ahead and get your eyes in the way that you want. And using that clay tends to work out a little bit better because it's just much easier to fill in that hole and really encompass the eye. And also your standard brush, so you can really refine that shape. And you can see that that came in and that was, you know, really intense. Let me go ahead and just zoom in here a little bit more. Okay. So we'll just sculpt in our eye here. We can probably jump up to subdivision level 4 there. Just making sure that we get this detail in here as we want. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and mask the eyelid out here, because I don't want to paint and sculpt on that. I want to sculpt everything around it so that I can get a little bit more detail in there just a little bit easier. So go ahead and grab our clay, go ahead and sculpt that in, go ahead and throw this geometry in here. Okay, go ahead and smooth this out a little bit, because I don't want that big faceted look there. Okay, so that's looking fine. Go ahead and just invert that mask. And we'll go ahead and grab my inflate brush. Make sure that's on add and not sub there. Okay, we'll go ahead and inflate that a little bit. Go ahead and clean that mask off. Also grabbing my Dynamesh standard brush here. Go ahead and detail out a little bit more for the eyes. And you can see how, pretty much easy it is to really go ahead and get that detail in. But I think we need to go ahead and scale these eyes up a little bit, because it looks just a little bit too small. I think we should just go ahead and maybe make them a little bit larger. So let's just go ahead and grab our Move Topological Brush. Just pull it down a little bit. And if you do that, you'll just have to basically push back in the bottom portion there. Okay. So there, I think I'm happy with those eyes. Okay, and you can see in about 30 minutes or so we have a decent character so far. Okay, so I think we can probably go ahead and mirror that eye over. So come up here to Z plugin, subtool master. We'll just mirror it in the x-axis and we'll merge it into one subtool. Okay, so there we have both of our eyes in. We'll go ahead here and jump up to subdivision level 4. I'm going to zoom in here, grab my move brush, make sure that our mirror is on, and I'm going to go ahead and hold down Alt and push in some eyes and pupils there. Okay. Jump back down to our tool, and we can probably go ahead and delete these meshes, because you can see that they're pretty much upside down and pretty much useless right now. Okay, so go ahead and bring back my image, and I want to paint on a mask of where I'm going to go ahead and sculpt in our mouth. So I think we want to sculpt in our mouth right here. Okay, so go ahead and invert that mask. Grab my Dynamesh standard brush, and I'll just slice in there. Go ahead and clear that mask off. Go ahead and just slice. And if you need a couple extra strokes, that's fine. Grab my pinch brush. Go ahead and pinch the mouth there so that it's clean. Okay. And at this point you can see where we have a really decent original character mesh. Okay, so what I want to go ahead and do is maybe now start adding the scales for our character. To do that, I'm going to jump up to subdivision level 6 on the mesh, and I'm going to paint out everything that isn't going to get a scale. Okay, so go ahead and paint out our fin here, our other fin, our back fin here, our bottom fin, our side fins, our bottom fins here for there, and I just want to make sure that I clean that up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to jump down to subdivision level 3 so I can blur that mask a little better. Jump up to 6. Okay. Go into our tool menu, go into our surface, noise, and you can see that we're going to have a UV here. I'm going to go ahead and grab an alpha, desktop, and we'll just go ahead and grab a couple alpha images here. Just thinking the scales that we want to go ahead and add. And I'm going to do a couple different types of scales here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab this reptilian skin 1. And go ahead and turn the strength up here so I can see it. And you can see where our scales here aren't really clean. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that we do this by UV. Okay, so now you can see where our scales come in and they're looking really good. Just need to turn those down a little bit. Maybe turn the intensity up a little bit. Okay, and that goes along with UVing our model. Okay, so we'll go ahead and hit OK here. We're going to go ahead and apply that to the mesh. And that just takes a little bit of time to calculate through. Okay, we're going to go ahead and hit noise again. And you can see that this comes in a little bit more intense, but I don't want to overlay the same scale image here. I'm going to use a different one so we can get some interesting looks to it. So go ahead and grab this 6893 or whatever it was, and we're going to turn the intensity up here just so I can see it a little bit better. Okay, we'll go ahead and scale these to a placement that I'm going to be happy with, and I'm going to turn that strength down a little bit. I don't want it to be so intense here. I just want to try to break up the original scales. So let's go ahead and take a look at this in the big viewport. So now you can see if those little like extra patterns there. Okay, so we'll go ahead and apply that to the mesh as well. And you can see that this just takes a little bit of time to go ahead and calculate through. Okay, so at about 37.5 minutes, you can see where it's fairly easy to go ahead and get a character pretty much sculpted out and almost done here. So we just need to invert that mask, and I need to just go ahead and start detailing the fins here. To do that, I'm going to go ahead and switch out my Damien standard brush there. I'm going to go ahead and grab my rake brush, making sure that I turn my focal shift down, also the intensity down, because if I go ahead and do it now, you can see where that's pretty much really intense. I just want to make sure that I turn this down to probably about 2. 1 or 2 should be fine. So we'll just jump back a step there, and we'll just go ahead and go in a couple extra times here, just making sure that our mirror is still on so that we can sculpt on both sides of the mesh. Okay, so we'll just sculpt on the one side here, just continue to sculpt in our mesh. Okay, and you can see where we're getting that detail to come in pretty nicely. So we'll do the same thing here for the steering fin, I would like to call it. And you can always hold down Alt on your keyboard while you do this to not only get the Z add but also the Z sub mode of that. Okay. You just have to slowly work through the intensity of getting this done. Okay, so we'll go up to maybe subdivision level or Z intensity of 3 here. And if you slow down a little bit when you go through this, you're going to get a little bit more detail. So you can probably go ahead and smooth that back out a little bit. It's just a doing what's going to work for you. Okay, so we'll go ahead here and sculpt this fin. I'm just going to try and do a quick pass on this. Okay. That's looking pretty decent right there. So go ahead and do the side fin here. trying to get that in somewhat quickly, so we'll go ahead and slow down a little bit there just so I can get a little bit more detail. Okay, we'll go ahead and do our bottom fin here. And also the back of it. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and throw an alpha on this brush, which is that alpha 58. So now you can see where we get a little bit more detailed lines for that. And you can see there. And you can always, just basically size that down if you want. And run through, just your sculpting process there. And I'm just using my mouse here. I'm not using a tablet or anything. I'm just so used to using a mouse that, changing or switching over to a tablet probably would throw a wrench in my workflow. So we'll just go ahead here and continue to work through there. But definitely, use what you think would work for you best. Okay, so I think that we have at this point a decent amount of detail on the fins here. But what I want to go ahead and do is throw in some illusion of veins. And to do this, we can just simply use our standard brush, spray. We're going to use that alpha 58. I'm just going to turn the intensity up here to 10. And that's probably a little too intense, so we'll just jump back down to 7. Okay, and we'll just slowly go over this, and you can see where we're going to get that sort of illusion that there's veins in there. Okay, and you can see how quickly you can basically get a fish model out. And I'll make sure that you guys actually get these project files and stuff as well, and all these models. Okay, so I think at this level we can probably call this a done fish for the first one. So in the next lesson we'll go ahead and come back, and I think that might just be a little bit too thick there. So before I go ahead and end it, let me just make sure that I do a little bit of move topological on this just to thin this out just a little bit more. That just looked a little bit too thick for me. Same thing in there. So at this level I think that we're ready to go ahead and call this done. In the next lesson we'll go ahead and come back, and I'll show you my method for creating another fish using that original base mesh that we created in lesson 1. And I'm just going to show you how easy it is to go ahead and manipulate that and continue just working. So come on back. I hope you enjoyed the sort of Nemo character here, and thanks for watching in lesson 2. So come on back.